My ex-wife claimed I abandoned our son. For 18 years I was the villain in every story she told. Then he turned 18 and knocked on my door. She said you were dead, he whispered. I showed him the 216 letters she returned unopened. He looked exactly like I did at 18. Same dark hair, same nervous way of shifting his weight from foot to foot, same hands, long fingers, squared off nails, the kind of hands my father had too. He stood on my porch with a backpack over one shoulder and eyes that held 18 years of questions I'd been waiting to answer. I'm Ethan, he said. I think you're my father. My throat closed up. 18 years of hoping for this moment, and now that it was here, I couldn't form words. Just stood there in the doorway of the house I'd never left, the house I'd kept specifically so he could find me, staring at the son I'd been told I'd never see again. I finally managed. I'm David. Please, come in. He followed me inside, looking around at everything. The photos on the walls, the furniture, the life I'd built in his absence, like he was trying to memorize it, like he was afraid it might disappear. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd written 216 letters to a boy who never received them. Neither of us knew where to start. She told me you were dead, he finally whispered. Car accident when I was 2 months old. She said you never even got to hold me. The room tilted. She told you I was dead? My whole life. There's a gravestone and everything. His voice cracked. We visited it every year on Father's Day. She'd put flowers there and cry and tell me stories about you, how you were funny, how you loved music, how you would have been a great dad if you just had the chance. I couldn't breathe. I talked to you, he continued, tears starting to fall. At the grave. Told you about my soccer games, my first girlfriend, getting into college. I thought you could hear me somehow. I heard every word, I said, just not from where you thought. I stood up, walked to the hallway closet, reached up to the top shelf, and pulled down 3 large plastic bins I'd kept there for 18 years, carried them back to the table, set them down in front of my son. What are those? I opened the first bin. Inside, stacked neatly in chronological order, were 216 envelopes, all identical, all addressed to Ethan at his mother's parents' address, all stamped in red ink, return to sender. One for every month of your life, I said. I sent them on the first of every month like clockwork, never missed once. He picked one up with trembling hands. It was postmarked from his first birthday. He opened it carefully, unfolded the letter inside. Dear Ethan, you're 1 year old today. I wonder if you're walking yet. If you like the stuffed elephant I sent last month. Your mom won't let me see you, but I want you to know your dad loves you. I'm fighting for you. I'll never stop fighting, I promise. Love. Dad, tears were streaming down his face now. She returned these? All of them. Every single one. I kept sending them anyway, hoping maybe someday one would get through. He opened another, then another. Letter after letter, each one dated, each one stamped with rejection, each one filled with love he'd never received. The gravestone, he said, his voice hollow. I stood there and talked to you, cried over you, thought I'd never have a father. I've been 15 minutes away this entire time. Same house, same phone number, same everything. He looked up at me. She let me grieve you for 18 years, while you were right here, while I was right here. Why? That question, the one I'd asked myself every day for nearly 2 decades, hung in the air between us. Sit down, I said. Let me tell you everything. Your mother and I met in college, sophomore year, same psychology class. She sat 2 rows ahead of me and had this laugh that made everyone in the room smile. I spent 3 weeks working up the courage to talk to her. Her name was Rachel Morrison, 20 years old, psychology major, daughter of a prominent family in a suburb north of the city. Her parents owned a chain of car dealerships, Morrison Automotive. You might have seen the commercials, money, connections, the kind of family that never heard the word no. We dated for 2 years, got engaged senior year, married 6 months after graduation at a country club her parents paid for in front of 300 guests I'd never met. The red flags were there from the beginning. I just didn't want to see them. Rachel needed to control everything, where we lived, what we ate, who our friends were, what I wore to her family's events. She'd get upset if I made plans without consulting her first, even small things like grabbing coffee with an old roommate. I told myself it was just how she showed love, that she cared so much she wanted to be involved in everything, that I was lucky to have someone so invested in our life together. Her parents reinforced it. Harold and Vivian Morrison. They treated me like an employee, tolerated, occasionally useful, never quite good enough. When Rachel and I disagreed about something, they always took her side, always reminded me how fortunate I was to have married into their family, but I loved her, or I thought I did. I wanted to make it work. Then you were born, March 14th, 2006, 7:23 a.m., St. Anthony's Hospital, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, perfect. I held you for the first time and something shifted in my chest, like a door opening to a room I didn't know existed. I looked at your face, your tiny fingers, your dark hair, your eyes squinting against the light, and I knew I would do anything to protect you, anything. For 2 months, I was a father. Changed diapers, walked you around the house at 3 a.m. when you couldn't sleep, sang off-key lullabies that made Rachel roll her eyes, memorized every sound you made, every expression, every milestone. Then Rachel told me she wanted a divorce. This isn't working, she said. You were asleep in the next room. 2 months and 3 days old. I don't love you anymore. Maybe I never did. I was devastated, but I understood. Marriages end. People change. I was willing to work out custody like adults, to co-parent, to put you first no matter what happened between us. Rachel had other plans. The divorce papers arrived 3 days later. I read them in my lawyer's office. Patricia Okonkwo, family law specialist, 14 years of practice. She'd come highly recommended by a co-worker who'd been through something similar. She's requesting full custody, Patricia said, flipping through the documents. Supervised visitation only, every other weekend. Supervised? Why? She's claiming you're emotionally unstable, that you've shown signs of erratic behavior. That's insane. There's more. Patricia's face was grim. She's also claiming you were verbally abusive during the marriage, that she's afraid of you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've never raised my voice at her, never threatened her, never done anything remotely. I believe you, David, but these allegations are serious. We'll need to build a defense. I spent the next 3 months gathering evidence, character witnesses, colleagues who could testify to my stability, records showing I'd been the primary caregiver during Rachel's postpartum depression, something she conveniently failed to mention in her filing. We went to court. Judge Robert Nakamura, family court, 17 years on the bench. He reviewed both sides, heard testimony, examined the evidence. His ruling: joint custody, shared parenting time, no supervised visitation required. There is no evidence to support Mrs. Morrison's claims of abuse or instability, he said. Both parents shall have equal rights to the child. I won. For exactly 6 weeks. Rachel didn't accept the ruling. She appealed. Her parents' money bought the best attorneys, Morrison and Associates, ironically, a firm with no relation to her family, but the perfect name to intimidate. They filed motion after motion, dragging out proceedings, making everything as expensive and exhausting as possible. While the appeal was pending, Rachel disappeared, just vanished, took you and left in the middle of the night. Forwarding address: none. New phone number: unknown. I woke up one morning, drove to her apartment for my scheduled custody time, and found it empty. I called the police. Detective Marcus Washington, Missing Persons Unit, 12 years on the force. He took my report, but his hands were tied. This is a civil matter, Mr. Hayes. The mother took her own child. There's no crime unless you have a custody order giving you exclusive rights. I have a custody order. Joint custody. She's not allowed to just... Joint custody means shared rights. She has as much right to take the child as you do. He paused. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you want to hear, but until she violates a specific court order, there's nothing criminal here. I hired a private investigator, Richard Bello, former FBI, 20 years of tracking people who didn't want to be found. He found her 3 months later, living with her parents in a suburb 40 miles away. New last name. She'd gone back to Morrison. I filed an emergency motion, contempt of court, custodial interference. We went back before Judge Nakamura. Rachel's attorneys argued she'd moved for safety reasons, that she'd felt threatened, that the joint custody arrangement was putting her mental health at risk. The judge didn't buy it. Mrs. Morrison, he said, you violated a court order. You removed the child from the jurisdiction without notice or consent. I am ordering immediate compliance with the original custody arrangement, plus makeup time for Mr. Hayes. Rachel nodded, looked contrite, said all the right things. 3 weeks later, she disappeared again. This pattern repeated 7 times over 4 years, 7 different addresses, 7 different court filings. 7 times I tracked her down, went through the legal process, won, and 7 times she vanished before I could see you. Her parents helped her every time. Harold Morrison had connections everywhere. Judges he'd donated to, police chiefs he'd golfed with, attorneys who owed him favors. I was fighting a war against an army, and all I had was a court order that nobody seemed willing to enforce. My savings disappeared. $47,000 in legal fees over 4 years. I sold my car, took out a second mortgage on the house, borrowed from friends and family, until nobody would lend me anything more. And still, I kept fighting. Mr. Hayes, Judge Nakamura said during our final hearing, I've seen a lot of cases in my years on this bench, but I've rarely seen a father fight this hard for his child. I want you to know that the court recognizes your efforts. Then help me, I said. Please, just let me see my son. I'm ordering supervised visitation at a neutral location. Mrs. Morrison, you will comply with this order or face criminal contempt charges. Rachel nodded again. Same contrite expression. Same empty promises. The visitation was scheduled for a Saturday at 2 p.m. She never showed up. By Monday, she was gone again. This time, for good. The letters started after I gave up on the courts. Not gave up on you. Never on you. But the system had failed me so completely, so thoroughly, that I realized I needed a different approach. If I couldn't see you, I would write to you. Every month on the 1st, I sat down at this kitchen table and wrote a letter to my son. Told you about my life. Asked questions I knew you couldn't answer. Said all the things a father should say to a child. I sent them to your grandparents' address, the Morrison estate in Lakewood. It was the only fixed location I knew for certain. Every single one came back. Returned to sender. I kept copies, dated them, filed them in these bins. Told myself that someday, somehow, you would know the truth. By year 5, I'd stopped tracking Rachel, stopped hiring investigators. The money was gone, and every time I found her, she just ran again. But I never stopped writing. 1 letter a month, 12 letters a year. year, for 18 years. 216 letters to a son who'd been told his father was dead. Ethan sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by open letters, tears streaming down his face. "I thought you abandoned me," he said. "She told me. She said you never wanted to be a father, that you left before I was born, that the only reason I existed was because she fought to keep me. None of that is true. I know that now." He looked at me. "How did you find out?" "About the grave." "What grave?" "The headstone. David Hayes, 1978-2006. Beloved husband and father. It's in Greenwood Cemetery. I've been visiting it since I was 5 years old. I felt the blood drain from my face. She made a gravestone? I thought it was real. Mom would cry every time we went. She'd tell me stories about you, how you met, how much you loved her, how the accident happened so fast you never even suffered. There was no accident. There was no death. There was just this, me, here, waiting, writing letters you never got." Ethan pulled out his phone. "I need to call her. Maybe we should wait." "No." His voice was steel. "She needs to answer for this. Right now." He dialed, put it on speaker. The phone rang 4 times. "Ethan, where are you?" Rachel's voice. I hadn't heard it in 18 years, but I recognized it instantly. That same controlling tone, that same barely concealed anxiety. "With Dad." Silence. Long and terrible. "That's impossible," she finally said. "Your father is dead?" "Yeah, I know the story. Except he's sitting right in front of me, very much alive." "Ethan, listen to me. I saw the letters, Mom. 216 of them. All returned, all unopened." His voice shook with rage. "You told me he was dead. You made me visit a fake grave. You let me mourn someone who was alive. I was protecting you. From what? From having a father who wanted me? Who wrote to me every single month for 18 years? He was dangerous. Stop lying," he was shouting now. "He has court documents, police reports, custody orders you violated over and over again. He has proof he was trying to find me. What do you have? A fake gravestone and 18 years of lies?" Rachel started crying, making excuses. Something about how she'd done it for him, how his father wasn't who he thought, how there were things he didn't understand. But Ethan wasn't listening anymore. "I'm not coming home," he said quietly. "I'm staying with my dad, my actual living, breathing dad who never stopped trying to reach me. Ethan, please." "Goodbye, Mom." He hung up. Then he looked at me, tears streaming down his face, and said the words I'd waited 18 years to hear. "Can I stay here tonight? I don't want to be alone." "You can stay as long as you want." I reached across the table and took his hand. "This is your home. It's always been your home." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Ethan moved in. We had 18 years of catching up to do. 18 years of milestones I'd missed, stories I'd never heard, inside jokes I didn't understand. We talked for hours every night, filling in the gaps, learning each other. But there was also the matter of Rachel. "I want her to face consequences," Ethan said one evening. "What she did wasn't just wrong, it was criminal. I'd thought about this for 18 years, fantasized about it during the darkest times. But now that the moment was here, I wasn't sure. The statute of limitations on most of what she did has probably expired," I said. "And prosecuting your mother, she stole my childhood, our relationship. She made me believe my father was dead." His jaw tightened. "That's not something I can just forgive." We consulted with an attorney, Marcus Oyalaran, criminal law specialist, 23 years of practice. He'd handled parental alienation cases before, though never one quite this extreme. "What Rachel did falls under several potential charges," he explained. "Custodial interference, filing false documents, depending on how she created that gravestone, perjury if she lied in court proceedings, and potentially fraud if she collected any benefits based on a false claim of widowhood." "Did she?" I asked. "Your ex-wife filed for Social Security survivor benefits on Ethan's behalf in 2007. She's been collecting $1,847 per month for 18 years, claiming you died and left no other income." My mouth fell open. That's over $400,000. $399,672 to be exact. That's federal fraud, no statute of limitations. Ethan looked at me. "She was getting paid for you being dead this whole time." "It appears so." "Then let's report it." The investigation took 4 months. The Social Security Administration doesn't mess around with fraud. When Oyalaran filed the complaint, they launched a full audit of Rachel's benefits history, subpoenaed bank records, interviewed witnesses. What they found was damning. Rachel had forged a death certificate, used a contact at a funeral home, a friend of her father's, to create fake documentation, filed the paperwork with Social Security, the State Vital Records Office, even the local cemetery. The gravestone was real. She'd paid $3,200 to have it made and installed, visited it regularly, posted pictures on social media showing her and Ethan honoring my memory, all while collecting monthly checks for my death. The federal prosecutor assigned to the case was Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Okafor, 15 years of experience with fraud cases. She called me personally to discuss the evidence. "Mr. Hayes, I've seen a lot of fraud in my career, but this is uniquely cruel. She didn't just steal money from the government. She stole your son's entire relationship with you. She stole your identity. What happens now? We're charging her with Social Security fraud, wire fraud, and filing false federal documents. The state may add additional charges related to the fake death certificate and custodial interference. And her father, Harold Morrison, was involved in hiding her. We're investigating his role. If he knowingly participated in the fraud, he'll face charges too. Rachel was arrested on a Thursday morning. I watched the news coverage from my living room, Ethan sitting beside me. They showed her being led out of her parents' house in handcuffs, her mother crying on the lawn, her father shouting at the cameras about persecution and family matters. I should feel something, Ethan said quietly. Watching my mom get arrested, I should feel sad or angry or something. What do you feel? He thought about it. Relief, like I've been holding my breath for 18 years and I can finally exhale. I understood exactly what he meant. The trial was 3 months later. Rachel pleaded not guilty. Her attorneys argued that she'd been a victim of domestic abuse, the same lie she'd told during our divorce, and that everything she'd done was to protect Ethan. The prosecution systematically dismantled every claim. They presented the court records showing I'd never been found abusive, the judge's statements praising my efforts to maintain custody, the private investigators' reports documenting how Rachel had fled repeatedly to avoid court orders. They showed the letters, all 216 of them, each one stamped "Return to Sender" in Rachel's own handwriting. They played recordings of her Social Security applications where she'd claimed I died in a car accident and left no assets, and they called me to testify. Mr. Hayes, the prosecutor asked, can you describe the impact of Rachel Morrison's actions on your life? I looked at the jury. 12 strangers who would decide my ex-wife's fate. For 18 years, I said, I woke up every morning thinking about my son, wondering if he was okay, if he was happy, if he ever thought about me. I paused, collected myself. I missed his first words, his first steps, his first day of school, every birthday, every holiday, every milestone that makes childhood precious. She stole all of that from both of us. And the letters? Every month I sat down and wrote to him, told him I loved him, that I was thinking about him, that I'd never stop fighting to see him. My voice cracked. And every month she sent them back unopened. Let him believe I was dead. Let him grieve over an empty grave while I was alive and desperate to know him. No further questions. The defense tried to paint me as obsessive, unstable, a man who couldn't let go. But the evidence spoke for itself. Guilty on all counts. Rachel was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. Her father, Harold Morrison, was charged as an accomplice. He pleaded guilty to avoid trial and received 3 years. The Social Security Administration demanded repayment of $399,672 plus interest and penalties. The Morrison family, once the pride of their community, was ruined. Their car dealerships went into receivership. Their reputation was destroyed. Their name became synonymous with cruelty and fraud. Justice. 18 years late, but justice nonetheless. It's been 2 years since Ethan knocked on my door. He's 20 now. Sophomore at State, studying business. He comes home on weekends when he can, calls me 3 times a week, sends me memes I don't understand but pretend to find funny. We're still learning each other, still filling in the gaps. There are moments when I look at him and see the baby I held for 2 months, then the toddler I missed, then the child I never knew, then the teenager who grieved me, then the man he's becoming. It's overwhelming sometimes, the joy and the grief all mixed together, but we're healing together. Rachel sent me a letter from prison last month, first contact in over 2 years. I almost threw it away unopened, give her a taste of her own medicine, but Ethan asked me to read it. David, I know you have no reason to believe anything I say, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I told myself for years that I was protecting Ethan, that you were dangerous, that he was better off without you, that everything I did was for his good. I was lying, to him, to you, to myself. The truth is, I was angry. Angry that you weren't who I wanted you to be. Angry that the divorce didn't go my way. Angry that you wouldn't just disappear. So I made you disappear, and I convinced myself it was justified. It wasn't. Nothing justifies what I did. I stole your son's childhood. I stole your chance to be a father. I stole 18 years that can never be replaced. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know that I finally understand the magnitude of what I did. I'm sorry for everything. Rachel, I read it twice. Then I handed it to Ethan. What do you think? I asked. He read it, set it down, thought for a long moment. I think she means it, he finally said. But I also think it took prison for her to get there, and that tells me something about who she really is. Are you going to respond? Maybe. Someday, when I'm ready. He looked at me. What about you? I thought about 18 years of silence, of letters returned, of a gravestone with my name on it. I thought about the father I'd wanted to be and the father I'd been forced to become. I thought about all the things I could say, the anger, the grief, the questions that would never have satisfying answers. No, I said finally. I said everything I needed to say. 216 times. She just never listened. Ethan nodded. Then that's her loss. It always was.